Hello and welcome to Gardening Genes. I love growing plants in containers, and over the years it's become sort of a necessity because we have so many critters here. We have deer, we have bunnies, we have woodchucks, and in order to grow certain things, I've discovered that the only way for me to have them is to grow them in containers. And I have, well over 50 containers going this summer, so come along with me and let's take a look. Some of the containers that I grow are just because they're beautiful, and some of them have a purpose. These are beautiful and have a purpose. They actually are at the top of a wall that is right above my daylily bed, and they provide a bit of a deterrent for deer who want to come and jump in. There's a little fence there, but the containers really do help. Now what's interesting about these, you can see that there are Dracaena in here. And these Dracaena are, my gosh, at this point almost 5 feet tall. I have brought these Dracaena in the house to overwinter them for the last 3 years. I told my husband I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to fit them this year, but he insisted we'll be able to tie them up and put them inside. But the Dracaena, the rubrum grass, the surefire begonias, we've also got some alyssum in here, although we had a big rain and it knocked a lot of the flowers off. And we have some vining vinca in here. The vinca, I also overwinter. I cut it back to maybe 6 inches, put it in small pots, and I bring it inside. So these are plants that you can have for multiple years if you would like. Now I always wanted a cutting garden, and I wasn't able to have one because the critters were always eating everything. And I'll show you what I ended up doing. But let's take a little look here because there's a couple of other interesting things as we're heading down there. We have a lovely honeysuckle here. And on the other side of the path, we've got some absolutely beautiful crocosmia. They are in full bloom right now. I really invest in critter-resistant plants to the greatest degree that I can. And you can see there's a stump of a tree here, which we probably should get more of that stump down. But this patio was overhung by a very large Japanese maple, and it became chronically infected with some sort of a fungal disease, and we were unable to heal the thing. So we cut it down, but that opened up this patio to beautiful sunshine and made it possible for me to have a container cutting garden. There's also some lavender here, which is starting to bloom, and some sedum as well. So we've mixed perennials in. So the patio has got a lot of very large pots on it, and this is where I put my cutting garden plants. Now I have probably 16 pots of dahlias going. I used to grow all my dahlias in the ground, and I see I need to do a little deadheading here, but they look quite nice. Of course, when you grow them in the ground, you have to dig them up every year, store them. We had one year when I had probably 50, and they did not overwinter well, and I got disgusted with them and I threw them all out. And I went for 10 years without any dahlias, but I decided to start again. These large pots are full of zinnias, which I really enjoy putting in bouquets. And I've got a few different kinds here, the cut and come agains. I've also got the Benary's Giants. But it's protected the zinnias from the deer, the rabbits, the woodchucks don't come down here. It's allowed me to have this lovely cutting garden. Now I did plant sweet peas here. I've been very disappointed. The plants have grown. They're actually quite tall. They're on this little fence here. And I haven't had any flowers. So I don't know if this is just a variety that's going to come later, or what, but they've been a little bit of a disappointment. I also do like to grow certain things, vegetables, in pots as well. And this is Kajari melon. Let's see if we can see some melons. Yep. Here we go. You can see these little melons in here. They are something very akin to cantaloupe. I also have citrus trees. I have a lemon tree and a lime tree here. These come in the house in the winter time. Neither of them have any fruit on them right now. We had some issues with scale and I didn't allow them to set fruit this year. We're sort of giving them a rest. And here's another lovely dahlia. Of course, I do have some very large house plants here too. This is a dwarf, although it's, gosh, taller than me, a dwarf ficus. It's one of the very small-leaved ficus. And I also have been keeping this beautiful tree form hibiscus. I've had this for, I must have had it 15 years, and I just keep bringing it in and out of the house. We've got some marigolds over here. This is a crazy one. I've never done this one before. I did it from seed. It's got an awful lot of foliage and very tiny little flowers. Probably not one that I'm going to do again, but it's kind of fun. Now I also do gladiolas in pots in order to bring them in as cutting flowers. And I cut them as soon as they get to probably this stage right here, and I bring them in the house. That is the whole purpose of having them in these pots. Look how lovely that is. And I've got quite a few that are almost ready to be picked. Now the raised bed vegetable garden is sort of a container garden in and of itself. We'll take a little look at that. But I did want to show you the herbs that I have going in pots. I've got some thyme going here. I've got big pots of basil. I found that the basil has done better in the pots. Maybe because I can control the fertilizer and the water a little bit better. I've also got down at the end here, we'll take a look at it, mint. Now mint is something that, you know, if you grow it in the ground, it goes everywhere. But here's some lovely spearmint in a pot. It's very, very well behaved. And this spearmint has been in this pot probably for 6 years. I just have to make sure that I fertilize it well. Now in the raised beds, we've got some lovely cucumber going. And you can see I've got cucumber to pick. We put a couple of different kinds in here. I think we might have the straight 8 in here, but we also have some pickling cukes in here, and we just sort of grew them all together. They don't seem to mind. Next to that, we've got some eggplant going. And I see that the icicle eggplant, well, we've got one at least going here. Oh, there's a few actually. They look great. We've got leeks and bush beans. We have yellow, purple, and green bush beans. Let's see if we can see. Ah, there you go. You can see we've got some nice yellow beans down in here. Oh, I've got to get out here. In fact, there's a whole lot to be picked here. Let's see, do I have any of the other colors started to really bean out? Oh yeah. Yep, there's green beans in here. And I see flowers, purple flowers, so certainly purple beans are in our future. This bed is potatoes, and we have 3 different types of potatoes going here. And these plants, they're starting to really fold over. When they start turning really brown, then it's time to come in and harvest them. So that's going to happen soon. We've also got celery going here. In this bed, we've got beets. A couple of extra tomatoes ended up in here. There's some lovely red Swiss chard. I love the color of the chard. It's delicious, but it's also so wonderfully colorful. And there's, of course, some parsley And a few kohlrabi tucked in with it. Now this bed was a little disappointing. We planted lima beans, and as you see, I only got 3 little plants. That's it. And we also have some, I think these are the Blue Lake climbers. Some tomato. These are tomato that Tom grew from seed. So we have no idea what they're going to produce. They were yellow tomatoes, but usually when you grow from seed like that, they've cross-pollinated with who knows what, so who knows what we'll get. And there's some zucchini here. Now the reason our zucchini are so small is we wait and we plant the zucchini until right around the 4th of July so that we can avoid the moth that lays the eggs that creates the vine borers. It means the zucchini come late, but we still get plenty. Now we leave the patio, we've got more pots. And on the corner here you can see there are more dahlias in pots. Looking very nice. I've also got some simply decorative pots here. And because these are out in the open, I made sure they had deer and rabbit resistant plants in them. We've got some white angelonia, some plectranthus, some dusty miller, things that the critters don't tend to like. And of course, as we move on, we've got some herbs here. Now the sage is planted in the ground, but I've also got apple mint, and the apple mint is in a pot. Here's another huge dahlia. This one's got to be 6 feet tall. I can't even reach up there to deadhead the darn thing. Behind it, there is some hardy hibiscus, which has been growing here for years. Very, very pretty. And some more decorative pots. Now these also serve a purpose because they have kufia in them. And the kufia is something that the hummingbirds love. So I always make sure that I include some kufia. But there's papyrus here, as well as some alyssum, things that, again, the critters are not going to be all that interested in. But the hummingbirds sure like it. The pathway, more pots. There's also houseplants. I've got some jasmine in a pot here that I bring in the house, and another pot with a purpose. This is salvia. This one is blue suede shoes, and I plant this specifically for the hummingbirds. They love this stuff. And you can see behind this is our tomato garden. There's also gora all along the side here. Now I did not plant any of the gora, and we have tons of it. This gora reseeded itself. It had been used in planters and reseeded itself, and the following year we had gora, and we've had gora ever since. The tomato garden is looking good. You see a little more gora and some sunburst boxwood. And this is some Russian sage on the edge. And more pots of dahlias. I don't really cut the dahlias. They don't last very long, but they're pretty to see in the pots. I also sometimes move perennials into planters. These autumn joy sedum actually were growing in a spot where there's too much shade. I wasn't quite sure where I wanted to put them, so I popped them in planters, and they are looking great. They are really enjoying it. Sometimes putting things in planters is a necessity because you need to move them. I have quite a few daylilies in planters here because we had work that had to be done here. We finally brought electricity up to the greenhouse and had to dig a big trench, and so of course those plants had to go somewhere temporarily. If we head to the front of the house, I have more planters. Now, believe it or not, we actually already went by 66 planters. I was counting as I was going. So yeah, I have well more than 50. Of course, I've got some decorative planters here in the front. These have some lovely coleus in them, as well as some lobelia in them. Things that I think the critters won't go after. But in this shady spot, I think they look quite lovely. On either side of the front walk, I've got these two large planters, again with coleus and some begonias in them. Just another little spot of color. I've also ended up with quite a few hosta in planters. These were hosta that were growing underneath the Japanese maple that was overhanging the patio that we ended up moving. And I really didn't have an idea of where to put them. But you know, the truth is that hosta will grow for years and years in a planter. So these I may just overwinter just the way they are. Something you may find interesting too is that you can see that there's some big tropical plants in this planter. I actually have what I'll call the mother plants in the house, you know, as a house plant. And what I did, because it was getting very large, is I cut some of the leaves off and I rooted them in water over the winter, specifically to be able to add them to some of my planters this year. And I think they add a really nice accent. I hope you enjoyed this little planter tour, and I hope to see you again next time on Gardening Genes. In the meantime, you have a fabulous day in your garden. Bye.